Hey everyone, in this lecture we'll be talking about chapter 2. So this is the list of assignments or the tasks that need to be completed by September the 9th. So let's open PowerPoint. We're going to go over the most important slides, and then we are going to switch to Visual Studio so we can have a practice, so we can apply what we learned. So chapter 2 basically is about the basics of programming, like how to declare your variables, how to create new identifiers, how to do basic arithmetic operations, how to make comments and stuff like that. So this is how we start the program. Okay, I showed you in the previous lecture how to install Visual Studio. So if you don't have Visual Studio up and running, please make sure to watch that video, how to install and how to create your first project. Very simple, step by step. So once you create a program, then, okay, let me switch so we can kind of switch back and forth between Visual Studio. So this is the Visual Studio, as you can see right here. So you go to create a new project. Okay, and then you have to specify the location. Make sure you choose this empty project Windows, of course, if you are using Windows. And then you're gonna click next, and then location. So I already have a folder named C++ project. So make sure you create a folder so all your files will be placed in that folder, so you don't have to keep looking for a particular file. So you click on these three dots and then you point. I created the folder in desktop to make it easily accessible, and this is my folder C++ project. So you double click on it, and then so this is my folder. So this is my first project. So I'm gonna select it. See that? And then I'm gonna name it, let's say, basics. Okay? You can name it anything you want, because this is only for practice. So and then you click create. So you're gonna get an empty project. So project basically is just a container. So there's no file in there, but you need to create all your files in the same folder. So it's empty, as you can see. And then on the right side, there are the most important folders. So one of them is the source files. So all the CPP basically is the C++ program files. Okay, sometimes you may have other things, like you put them in resource files. We're going to get to that. And then once you go to advanced class, maybe in the next class, 1437, you may want to use header files, because you separate the program into sections. But for now, for this class, the only folder we're going to be using is this one, the source files. So make sure you select it, and then right click, and then go add item. And you need to do this every time you create a new file. So this you're going to be used to this, because you're going to be doing it frequently. So new item. So this is the file. Can you see automatically it says CPP, because that's the extension. And then I'm going to name it the same thing. Okay, basics. Usually you have more than one file in the same project, but for this class, so we're going to be using only one file, because that's a beginner class. So I'm going to click add, and that's going to create the file where you're going to put the code. See, it starts with number 1. That's the first line. Now, every file, and I said that in the previous lecture, you always start with this. You could call it template. Okay? So you put hashtag or pound key, and then you put include, and then you put this symbol, less than, greater than, and you put IO string. So this is basically C++ file that help us with many things in our program. It makes it easier. Like when you print something, there's a lot of things in behind the screen. So C++ will help you with this basic thing that you don't even have to worry about it. So you can print with no problem. So that's the first thing. And the second one, we need to use or add using namespace std. And I mentioned this last time. I said, why do we have to add this? So when you print, you don't have to put a long statement. You can just put the shortcut that starts with cout. If you don't have this line, then it's going to be longer. We're going to find out. And then the only section we're going to be working with, at least in this class, is called main. Main, basically, that's the main execution place. That's where the program is executed. Anything between these two braces should contain all the instructions. If you put anything, like for example, if you put instructions here, it doesn't count. The program will not process this. So if I put anything, program here, it will be ignored. Okay, so make sure you are restricting your program between these two braces. Okay, so let's start something called comments. So comments basically is something that the program will ignore. It's just for you to explain what you are doing. Okay, so I'm going to put here comment 1. Can you see it's in a separate color, green? That shows you that the program will not, but it will skip that line. This is only for me. Like for example, I'm going to put, okay, calculate, just to explain to myself and to other people what I'm doing. So calculate, let's say, the area of a circle, for example. I'm just explaining. And then under this line, you put the code, okay? So this is called one-line comments. So this is valid only for one line. So if I start typing, see, it's not a comment anymore because this is only for one line. Now, what about if I want to have 3 or 4 lines of comments? We usually start with this, / and then asterisk, and then you can put as many as you want. Comment 1, or let's say line 1, line 2, and then you keep going. And then when you finish with asterisk /. So anything in between these two symbols, between this and between this, are considered comments. That's why they appear in green. So this is if you want to make a comment. I highly recommend, if I give you an assignment, make sure, because I give points for this, to include this comment, like on top what you are explaining to me. Is assume that I don't know anything about programming and you are explaining to me. So maybe the first line you're going to say, okay, I'm defining my variables. Just type it. Say that means whatever I'm going to do is about define variables. Okay, and then after that, let's say line 1, I want to put, okay, this program, I want to explain what the program does. This program shows how to calculate the gross pay, for example. So I'm explaining to you. Okay, so I don't need line 3. I can just delete that, depending how many lines you need. Okay, so this is about comments. Okay, so now let's switch back to, so we just learned how to create our first project, basically the basic templates. As you can see, this is the same thing here. Look, they put a comment, sample C++ program, that's a comment. So we talked about the include IOString. It's called preprocessor directive. This is a file from C++ to help us with many things. The using namespace std. So as you can see right here, can you see this line? It says cout. This is for printing. So if I put this line using namespace std, I don't have to add more. I just put cout. Otherwise, let me show you here the difference. So if I put, for example, something, I want to print something. So now this is the real code. I'm going to put cout. And then cout means print, display this in the monitor. I'm going to put, oh, this is my first program ever. Okay. And then I'm going to end the line. I'm going to put end L. This is not number 1, this is L. That's end of the line. So this end L allows you to start new lines, so you don't continue. Because if I don't have this, and then I ended with semicolon, which is the end of the statement, then the computer will continue in the same line. What about if I don't want to continue on the same line, I want to start a new one? So in this case, we have to use and L. And I'm going to put another statement. I'm going to say, oh, I am so excited. Okay? And the same thing if I want to end the line. So if you run the program, you're going to see that these two lines are in separate lines. How do we run the program? Just by clicking on this button right here. So I'm going to click on it, and then you're going to see like a new page will pop up. Can you see right here? And it shows what we have, what we did. All what we did in this program, we just typed these two statements. This is my first program ever. I'm so excited. Now let me show you what happened if I don't use this. So if I just put this, you may think that these two are are separate. But for the program, it's not separate because you didn't put anything that forced the program to start new lines. So if I run the program, you're going to see that these two lines are together. See that? This is my first program, and then the program will continue ever. I am so excited. So depending what you need it for. So if you want something to happen in the same line, don't use and L. If you want to separate them into separate lines, then in this case you have to use and L. Or sometimes they use this. Oh, by mistake I closed the program. I intended to close only the display page. So now I'm going to open my program. And then this is the program. All right, so let's switch to the PowerPoint. And then it ends with the return 0 all the time. At the end, you're going to see return 0. So I may have to put this in here. Return 0. Return 0. It's like that's the end of this section. All right, so let's continue with this. So special characters. So this is the characters you're going to be using frequently. We talked about the 2 forward slashes. This is for comments. We talked about the pound key or hashtag. This is how we start. Or any file that comes from C++, you put it on top. So every time we're going to introduce a new one. So far we are just using IOStream. But there are others we're going to be learning about. This bracket right here, say like we used it for cout. We use 2 of them. So sometimes we're going to use the less than and greater than. Parentheses usually for either functions or for parentheses, like we use them for arithmetic operation. The braces we use to indicate where does the program start, where does it end. Or function, when we talk about functions, where does it start. A function is just basically a block of the program. Sometimes we need to separate the sections of the program. And then we have the double quote. So this is to show where the text, not numbers. So where does it start, where does it end? All of this will make sense once we start practicing, okay? So I'm just giving you an overview, but if you miss something, don't worry about it because we're gonna learn it. We're gonna put all of this into practice. So we said that cout is only for displaying. As you can see, when we run the program, it shows whatever we typed after cout, okay? It's like the printer, but the visual, whatever it shows in the monitor, okay? So when you say print, it does not mean it's going to come out from the printer. It's going to be displayed for us to see. It's like here, programming is fun. All what you're going to do is the program will display this statement. Whatever you put, even if you misspelled, so the program does not care how you, as long as it is between double quotes, the program will not check the spelling, okay? Except like few things that we're going to be talking about that has special meanings. Okay, so as you can see right here, if you don't put and L, then the program will just put them side by side. We talked about this. We talked about and L, so it indicates the end of the line and then it will start a new one. Okay, now there is an alternative for and L. So if you don't want to put and L, you can put \n. That means also the same thing as and L. So let's go back to the program. So for example, right here, instead of putting and L, like this, like what we did earlier, some people, they like to, save time. So there is an alternative, which is before the closing quotation, just put \n. All what it does is just start new line. So this is very similar. These two are similar. And L and \n, they have the same effect. So if you run the program, you're going to see it's going to be in the two separate lines. So they do the same thing, okay? They have the same effect. I like to use the \n because it's easier and faster. But, or sometimes you can switch back and forth. Sometimes you use \n, sometimes you use and L. It's totally up to you. Okay? So this is we call it escape sequence because it has a special meaning. It's not like a normal text. It indicates something that the computer will have to act differently. All right, so we talked about include. Now let's talk about the variables. That's probably the most important part of this chapter, variables. I'm sure you learned about variables in math. It's almost the same thing, but there's something a little bit extra that we need to learn about variables in computer science. So a variable is nothing but something that takes a value, whatever that value might be, and we're going to learn about the different type of values, and then it can change. That's why they call it variable, because it changes, it varies, okay? And for the computer science, it's also, you add something else, that it is a space in the computer. So when you declare a variable or you define a variable, what you are doing, you are asking the computer to assign a memory space for it in the computer, because without that space, the computer cannot locate that information. Like let's say you want to do some calculation and you expect the computer to remember, like what is the employee's name, what is the employee's, how many hours did he work, and all this information needs to be saved. And then the way we save them is through variables. So variables, look at it, it's just like a box where you save things, okay? So this box is for shoes, for my shoes. This box, little box, is for jewelry, for example. Another box is for glasses, whatever, okay? So variable is nothing but space in the memory of the computer. And the best way to make sense of it, look at it as box. And this concept of box is very helpful, especially when we talk later about what to do with variables. This concept of variable or analogy will be very helpful, just to keep it in mind. So we need to declare the variable. If you don't declare the variable, the computer does not recognize it. How do we declare? You specify what type. Is this a number? Is this, if it is a number, is it an integer or decimal? Is it Boolean, that means true or false? Is it a text? What type of information are we talking about? So you have to start with the data type, and we're going to be learning about the different types. So int means an integer. That means item will not take something with decimal like 0.5, 0.62. No, it's just a number, integer, like 5, like 90, like 134, and stuff like that. So that's how we declare. So we always start with the data type, and then the name of the variable. You have to give it a name. So this is a declaration. Now here, you declare, but you did not assign a value. You can assign a value if you want to, either at the same time or later. But for now, item is empty. Okay, it's like a box, but it's empty. Okay? So this is an example. Another variable, it's called a number, and it's an integer. It doesn't really matter. For example, if you call it a text, but you put int, that's a number. For the computer, it's a number. Why? Because you declare it as int. So the name does not really mean something. It's the data type that decide what type of value you need to assign to that variable. So you can see, I can combine these two together. I can put int number equals 5 in one statement. But sometimes you may not have that value, so you declare it and then you assign the value later, like in this example. Okay? So int is the one we're going to be using frequently. As you can see right here, we call it string. Literal is anything between double quote. It's a text, a bunch of characters like letters, numbers, anything. As long as it's between double quote, it's for the computer, it's a text. All right, that's another example. We declare a variable called apples and then we assign 20 to it. All right, so sometimes you have numbers, sometimes you have text. Text is anything between double quotes, and the computer does not, it just keep it the way it is. Even if you misspell it, the program will keep it as is. Identifiers is how we name our variables. So let's use an example here. So I'm going to switch to this, to Visual Studio. So I'm going to delete all of this, and then I'm going to start with the comments. It's good to start the comment. So let's say I want to describe what the program is doing. So I'm going to say this program shows how to, let's say, calculate the perimeter and area. Look here, if I need the second line, I have no choice but to use again, because this 2 forward slashes is valid only for one line. So I need to start with 2 forward slashes. And area of a rectangle, for example. So here I'm describing what the program is about. So for the rectangle, you need what? You need to know the length and the width. That's the only information you need. For the perimeter and area, that's something that can be calculated. I don't have to ask the user, give me the perimeter. No, that's something you can calculate for yourself. But the length and the width, you need to have them. So I'm going to declare them. Okay. Or let me put this one as a comment, because it's 2 line. I'm going to use the other one, which is you start with the forward slash asterisk, and then you end with an asterisk. So, okay, so that's the program is. Now I'm going to use, okay, declare my variables. So I'm going to put int or double. Int means integer, or double means something with decimal. So let me put here int. I'm going to be length. See, this is a declaration, and there is width. So I can either declare them separately, or since they share the same data type, I'm going to combine them. I'm going to put only int one time, and then I'm going to separate them with comma. That means I'm declaring both of them as integer. Now it's very important to put comma in between, but semicolon should be always the last one. Okay, so I just declared these 2 variables. Okay, and then I'm going to print. I'm going to ask the user to, so we always put cout and then 2 symbols of less than. And then I'm going to put text. I'm going to ask them to give me this information. What is the length, for example? And then I'm going to put end line. Now, how do I get the information? So cout is for giving the information out. Now, what about to receive? For the computer to receive information, we use the opposite, cin. That means get the information, and then we reverse the symbol like this. So that means I'm going to put length. Whatever the user will give me, it's going to be saved in this length. So if you put cin, and then this symbol, length, whatever the user will type will be saved automatically, because you are asking them a question, right? What is the length? So the user will type a number, because length is a number. So cin will get that information, basically scan it, and then save it in there. And then we're going to do the same thing for the width. What is the width? And then I'm going to end the line. So, and then I'm going to do the same thing. cin means get that information and save it in here. See, now I got all the information. Now it's time to calculate, because you can calculate the perimeter, right? Calculate the perimeter first. So I need a variable for perimeter, because I need to save it somewhere. So I'm going to go all the way up and then declare perimeter and also area. So this is if you decide to have them integer. Now, what about if you want to use decimal? Then you cannot use int. You have to use something called double. So double means something with decimal. Okay, so let's keep it integer for now. So what is the area? What is the formula for perimeter? So we're going to So once you declare your variable, you don't have to declare it again. You declare it only one time, and then you keep using it over and over. It's like when you ask somebody about their name. You just ask them one time. Okay, what's your name, please? Okay, Jacob, David. Well, you don't have every time to ask him, okay, what's the name again? So it's going to be kind of annoying, okay? So you ask him only the same thing here. So we just declare the variable one time, and then that's it. So what is the perimeter is 2, and then we put asterisk, that's for multiplication, 2 times length plus, and by the way, the program will use the order of operation. So we do the same thing that's in math. 2 times width. And then we always end with semicolon. So I did this calculation and then I saved it where? Look, perimeter is nothing but a box. So now it's saved. Now let's do the same thing for area. Calculate area. Again, area is already declared, so I'm just going to have to use area equal what? Whatever the length is. Remember, we already have the value for length and width. Why? Because of the CIN. So whatever the user will type, it's going to be scanned automatically and saved in these two variables. So I just have to multiply it by the width. Now I have all the information, but I cannot see them. The only way I can see them by using cout. So I'm going to put display, the perimeter, and area. So I'm going to go right here, and I have to use cout. And then I'm going to use a statement, the perimeter. Again, anything between double quotes, the program will display the way it is. The perimeter is, and then I'm going to separate with this symbol because now I have a text and I have the variable. I cannot put them together. I cannot put this. Is perimeter. I can't do that. Why? Because we have two things that are separate. The text is something and the variable is totally different. So we have to separate them by this. So you close the quotation first and then you put this again. So this symbol basically is only for separation too. So I'm going to put perimeter and be careful because the mistake that is very, very often made is people, they misspell. So if you have a mistake, it is almost 95, 96, 98%. It's going to be misspelling. It's just, it's normal because, it's case sensitive. Uppercase, lowercase is different thing, and then we misspell all the time. So that's totally fine. So now what about the area? So I forgot here to end the line. So I'm going to put again and L. And finally, what is the area? The area is, and then I'm going to finish, always separate area. Now done. So as you can see right here, this is basically an example of a complete program. So I started with the comments. I'm explaining, describing what the program is doing. And then for every part, I put a comment to explain. I declare my variable. Here, what I'm doing here, I'm getting the information. So you can say here, get input from the user, because CIN will get the information from the user, scan it and save it. And then once I got all the information, I did the calculation and then I displayed them. See? Now let's run the program and see. So the program is going to go step by step. It's going to declare the variable and then it was going to ask that question and then wait. So as you can see right here, it's going to ask the question, what is the length, and waiting for you. So whatever you type is going to be saved using CIN. So if I put, for example, 10. So let me see here, 10. So once I hit the enter key, that 10 will be saved in a variable called length. And then it's going to ask me the second question, one at a time. 8. Okay? Then hit the enter key. Once I hit the enter key, all this calculation will be made and then it will be displayed. So as you can see, the perimeter is 36. Where do we get the 36 from? So 10 times 2, that's 20. 8 times 2, 16. We add them up, you get 36. And the area is by multiplying. So this is a complete program, as you can see. All right, so identifier is basically the name of the variable, like length is called identifier because it's the programmer that shows that name. Because there are some names that are made, like cout is not an identifier because it's something that C++ is using, and we have to use it exactly the same way. But sometimes we can declare our own variables, like what we did with length, with width, with perimeter and area, are called identifiers. Now there are some rules for choosing. You can choose any identifier you want, but there are 3 rules. You have to start, if you name your variable, make sure you don't start with the number. Start with either alphabet or underscore, and then make sure there is no space in between, and then also make sure that that identifier is not one of the keywords that you can see. So I cannot name my variable double, because double has a special meaning for the program. So all these names that you see right now, these are keywords. That means they mean something. So make sure you avoid using these names. So here it talks about the rules that we just talked about. The first character can be only alphabetic character, like a letter, or underscore. Okay? After the first character, you can use anything you want. And then be careful about uppercase or lowercase, because they are. So these are examples of valid, invalid. The first one is totally valid. Okay? Now, second one is valid because I separate the 2 with underscore, which is talk. Okay? And that, by the way, the underscore is the only special characters allowed. You can use question mark. You cannot use exclamation mark. You cannot use dots. You cannot use any of the special other than underscore. Like for example, this one right here is wrong because you put dot. Dot is not valid. Here I started with number 4. You cannot do that. I use so it's not valid. Also, like I use the $sign. You can use underscore. That's the only special character. So we talked about the integer data type. Even though we have different variety of types, we usually use only integer double. So this is just like a different size. Short int is less than int, and then long int is a bigger number. It's just like about boxes. You know, sometimes you have small boxes, medium, but it's the same type. So this is, all of them are integer, but how much space, how big the number you can use. So if I use long int, that allows me to look how big the numbers is. So it allows me to use big numbers. But if I use only int, I cannot use this number because it's too big. It's like the box is too small for that, whatever I want to put in there. But most of the time, we're going to be using only ints, okay? Something in the middle. It's not too short, it's not too big. But these are just different type of the same, different sizes of the same type. So all of this, we talked about it, how to declare your variables. And then we use examples like the one we used earlier. All right. So we use assignment. Oh, there is something called char. Char, a character, is when you declare only one single. So let me show you an example of this one. So for example, I can declare a variable of type char that says initial. Like let's say, for the name, I can use string. String, that means a text. I can call it like, let's say, my name or first name. Okay? And then last name. And then I'm gonna put char is initial. Initial is only one character. Okay? So to declare a variable to hold my name, I'm not gonna use int because my name is not a number. It's not double, it's not decimal. So we use string. String means a text, okay, a bunch of characters. The same thing for last name and the same thing. We're gonna talk about this later on, okay? So this is the different types we're gonna be using frequently. Int, double, string, char. These are the most frequently. There's also another type, it's called Boolean. Bool, that means either something is true or false. Like for example, I'm gonna say pass. I want to see if the student is passing or not. So either yes or no, either true or false. So pass will get either true or false. Okay, let's say late. Are you late? False, for example. So anything that accepts only true or false, we use bool. Okay, as I said, we just declaring, we just giving like an overview, but we're gonna use them. The best way is to use them. We're gonna be using all this data type throughout the semester. So you don't have to worry about this. All right. Okay, so we did the arithmetic operation. Let's see what's in there. So we talked about the data type, and then string. We talked about string. We're going to talk about it in detail in the next class. So this is an example. Just make sure you include string on top. Remember, like we have IOStream, so add this. Again, we're going to be talking about this in detail later on, so this is just a little introduction. Floating point, we talked about this, is the decimal. You can use either float or double. So this is the same type, it just float is less. That means double can take bigger numbers than float, but all of them are decimal that accept point something. Okay. So we talked about the Boolean. Bool is either true or false. You can also use 1 and 0. 1 means true, 0 means false. So C++ accepts both. So if I didn't put, for example, if I change this one to 1, it's the same thing. So 1 means true and false means 0. So the program will accept both because they mean the same thing. Okay, so now what about if you want to know the size of the data type? You can use size of. So for example here, if you want to know what is the size of integer, so I'm going to put here out size of integer is, and I'm going to put size of, as you can see right here, and then you put, for example, int. So that's going to give me how much is the size. See, is 4. Can you see like 4 here? So that means 4 bytes. So 4 means 4 bytes. So I can put this bytes, and then you add the line. So now if you run it, that means the integer can take only 4 bytes. See that? 4 bytes. So size of basically tells me how much space devoted by the program. All right. So we talked about initialization. Initialization is when you assign a value. There is a declaration when you give it a data type, integer, double, and then you give it a value. This is called initialization. And then you can use a different, we use like a statement, right? Like in our program, in our example, we use auto if you want the program to figure out. Sometimes, let's say you forgot, you can put just auto. Auto, that means the program should be able, if you put 100, then the program is going to say, oh, 100 is integer, then, oh, he means integer. So auto, you want the program to figure it out. You don't want to explicitly say it int. So the program will say, oh, based on the value, so it should be int. If you put 100.75, the program is going to say, oh, that's double. So basically, the program will figure it out. Now, arithmetic operators, so that's basically the operation that we use. We just use them, right? So as you can see right here in our program, our example, we use plus, we use multiply. So that's the normal math. Now, there is only one thing that you have to be, I'm sure like you know it, it's just we don't use it a lot in math. And that's the percentage sign. Let me see. A percentage sign, let me put right here. In computer science means remainder. So for example, if I put x equal, and then I put 19, and I put, it's called mod, we call it mod 5. So what is this supposed to mean? What's the value of x? That means we're going to divide 9 by 5. Whatever the remainder is, that's going to be assigned to x. So when I divide 19 by 5, the answer is 3, right? Because 3 times 5, 15, and then we have 4 left. So 4 is the remainder. After division. because when you divide, you get only the integer, that's 3. 3 times 5 is 15, so we have 4 left. So if I print, say out x, I'm going to put x is, and then I'm going to put x, it's going to give me the remainder, which is 4. So x, oh, I have to repeat this. All right, see, x is 4. So that means the remainder. So be careful about this. We're going to be using it also frequently. So I think we covered pretty much everything. If there is anything, we'll cover it in the next chapter. But we learned about the variables and the data type, the different types like int, char, double. So double is anything with decimal. String is for names, like for text. Char is only for one single character, like A, B, like your initial is E, for example. And then bool is either true or false, or 1 and 0. We learned how to print using cout. We learned how to get the input from the user using cin. And we learned also how to use some arithmetic operation that you are familiar with in math, and then how to use the basic arithmetic operation. Thank you for watching.